So, I think one of the basic things that most people come to understand about life is that life is hard, and maybe you fall into one of two camps where either you know that well, you've experienced that acutely, you've had heart-wrenchingly difficult stuff happen in your life, maybe experienced some kind of real trauma that's affected you, made stuff really difficult, and you've had moments in your life, and maybe many moments in your life, where you've been able to clearly say, I'm not okay. This is really, really tough. Or maybe you fall into the category that I feel like, and I've been kind of reflecting on this and led me to make this video about how most of my life was pretty easy. For most of my life, didn't have anything that was really heart-wrenchingly difficult. Granted, I'm sure that based on the perspective, there's definitely stuff in my life that's been hard, really difficult. But I don't think I've ever had a point in my life where I've been able to just clearly say that I am not okay. I think I've always been able to, at least in some part, justify it within, internalize, you know what, this is hard, but I think I'm okay. And this past year has been hard for me. This past year has been first time in my life where I've had heart-wrenchingly difficult stuff. Stuff that's just been really tough, and moments when I've been able to clearly say, I'm not okay. Really. I'm just really going through stuff. So I think what I want to start this video with is just that life is hard. And that at some point, whether it's that you experience that super well, you know it because your life's been hard, or maybe you're someone like me who's had a pretty easy life, but I can now, and I've now kind of looking back on the past year and the stuff that I've had, of that, if that time hasn't come for you, that season hasn't come for you, I guess I'd say pretty likely it will, because life is hard. And if we establish that at some point or another, life's going to be just heart-wrenchingly difficult, a point in your life where you might just be sitting with your stuff and say, I'm not okay, and life is really hard. What do we do with that? And it necessitates hope. That if life is hard, and if there are moments where life is heart-wrenchingly difficult, we need hope. Because without hope, then what do we do? I think we look to find hope. We could look to find in ourselves. We could place our hopes in ourselves, but we're weak and broken. We let ourselves down. We look to find hope in other people. Other people are weak and broken, and they let us down. And I think we know both those things from experience. We could try to play the odds. We just play this odds game of life's really hard right now, but odds are at some point it'll probably get better. But there's no real certainty in that, and I think that leads us to, ideally, some kind of objective, confident hope that we can have. And that's why we need Jesus Christ. That's when we can look to God and find our real hope, because God can't lie. God in his nature can't lie, and God has made promises to us that God will bring all things for our good. God will give us renewal, reversal of fortunes, that he will raise up the lowly and raise us up out of our weakness and our brokenness. And if God has promised that, God has to be faithful. It's who he is. So God can't lie. So if God gives us a promise of hope, we can have confidence in that hope, because God can't lie. And we saw it, and we see it so clearly in God's faithfulness and his promise in sending his son, Jesus Christ. And I think the other side of this is that for me, when life's been hard, I not only have hope in a God who's faithful, but in a God who knows that life is hard. If you look at the life of Jesus, God made flesh in the person of Jesus Christ. I don't think we reflect often enough on how hard the life of Jesus was. that God came to earth as a human being and could have had whatever life, but he had lived an incredibly hard life. Jesus was born in a poor family. He lost his dad growing up. I was just thinking about this yesterday. We don't reflect on that enough. Jesus lost his dad. He lost Joseph in his upbringing, which would be heart-wrenchingly difficult. And I can't speak from experience, but people who've lost a parent, it's a heart-wrenchingly difficult thing. Jesus went through that. He grew up with just his mom and went off on kind of this solo mission in his ministry. Probably wasn't popular. Gave up some kind of stability for that. It was difficult, and goes off into his ministry and gets persecuted, really persecuted, mocked for doing what he does, to the point of people attempting to take his life, and ultimately Jesus dying an agonizing and brutal death of crucifixion. That God, in the person of Jesus Christ, lived the depths of life is hard. So he knows. And I think the moment that I go to most often, not just like the physical experience of Jesus knowing that life is hard, but emotionally, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, where we find him just prostrate on the ground, sweating blood, pleading with his Father, because life is hard and he knows exactly what's about to come. That in my moments when life is hard and stuff is heart-wrenchingly difficult, I'm in just agony, Jesus was there. So in my moments of hardship, I can unite that difficult stuff to Christ, sit with him in the agony in Gethsemane, and have this confidence that God knows. He's lived it. He's experienced it. He became one of us and took that on. But also he's faithful in this hope that he gives us, that he'll bring all things for good, that he'll give us renewal and reversal of fortunes and raise us up in Jesus's, not only his death, but then his resurrection. So we can have confidence. We can have hope in Jesus Christ. And it's the best hope that we can have because God can't lie. And God has promised us good. So we can then further have hope that if it's not good right now, if life's really hard right now, then it's not the end. Because God can't lie. And he promised us good. He promised us life in abundance. If we have faith in him and place our hope in him, when life is hard, he knows. But he also promises us good. And that your hard time is not the end, because we have hope and the good things that God promises us yet to come.